Look, we all know Demon Slayer is depressing. I did this video last year and most of you cried, but of course there are some of you that didn't. Here's a continuation based on some of the comments you guys left me. Seriously, I challenge you not to shed a tear or two this time. I have a tender little fact that involves Tanjiro's demon transformation. Remember Rengoku's message to Tanjiro and the others before his death? He said, and I quote, "Go ahead and live with your head held high. No matter how devastated you may be by your own weakness or uselessness, set your heart ablaze. Grit your teeth and look straight ahead." This is what Rengoku told Tanjiro. And then in chapter 203, as Tanjiro is succumbing to demonhood, Rengoku can be seen among the ones who are supporting his back and helping him return back to being a human. Even after death, he is still telling Tanjiro that no matter how devastated you may be by your own weakness, hold your head up high. And he's there showing up doing exactly that for him. Something else about Rengoku that is going to tug your heartstrings is a cup. Yep, just a cup. Before Rengoku left for his mission, he drank a cup of water with his brother Senjuro. Maybe it's because he was up against the clock or just a bit careless because he leaves that sake cup right on the table. Well, Rengoku never returned home and so Senjuro kept that cup exactly where it was. It was the literal last memory he had with him. Now, as you guys must have seen it in other series as well, drinking with your brother has a special meaning in Japanese culture. It's why Luffy, Ace, and Sabo also shared a drink together to celebrate the fact that they've become brothers. Speaking of Sanjuro, did you know that the only one who ever celebrated his birthday with him was his brother Rengoku? Despite the toxic atmosphere because of their father, the passing of their mother, Sanjuro always had his brother. Rengoku took on both parents' role after everything that happened. He guided and raised his brother in place of them. Rengoku was truly like the sun in Senjuro's life. Now imagine if such a person is suddenly no more in your life. Yep, and so after his brother's death, Senjuro no longer celebrated his birthday. I mean, there wasn't really anyone there to celebrate with him. I guess he's forever 14. And next we have another one about family. Remember when Tanjiro told Inosuke that everyone has a mother and his reply was how he was an abandoned child and doesn't need one? Well, we know that Inosuke held Shinobu in special regard ever since they made their pinky promise. Heck, Inosuke even thought that he had met her before and he actually wanted to ask her about that. Like, why does he think he's met her before? Everything becomes clear during the battle with Doma when he tells him about his mother. Finally, after all this time, Inosuke's long dormant memories of his mother awaken as he makes the connection with the pinky promise, something that they used to do. Unfortunately, this realization happened after Shinobu was also dead, so yes, Doma really took both of them from him, didn't he? He took his mother and his mother figure. Luckily, we know Inosuke eventually dawned on someone else as his new mother figure, as we learn in the fan books. I talk about it here in this video. And if we're on the subjects of things that could have happened while a person was alive, let's talk about Genya. It's no secret that Genya and Sanemi's unusual relationship is one of the most beautiful yet also heartbreaking things in Demon Slayer. When all was said and done, Sanemi was crying his heart out as he finally opened up to his little brother. Even then, their conversation could not end on a proper note. By the time Sanemi replied to him, Genya's ears had already been disintegrated, so he died without ever hearing his big brother tell him how much he meant to him. But maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Relationships between brothers are always complicated, and they are especially complicated in Demon Slayer. But even though Genya couldn't know what Sanemi was saying to him, you bet he could feel it. Moving on from Sanemi's brother, we have their mother. She must have had the worst fate out of all the characters in the series. Her husband was abusive and she'd constantly protected her kids from him all her life. However, even after the guy was no longer in their life, and they could finally live out their lives as a proper family, she became a demon. She killed her own children, and the only way she could have stopped was for her son, whom she loved so much, to kill her. And even after her sad and downright tragic life was over, what was her fate at the end? She went to hell with her cruel, abusive husband? But that's it, isn't it? Yes, she was a demon when she did it, but after what she had done, would she have even sought any fate other than hell? What a helpless character. Next, how can we not have Mitsuri and Obanai? This may very well be the most beautiful love story in all of Demon Slayer, but they don't even confess to each other until they're both on the verge of death. At the end, after all is said and done, and Muzan is finally defeated, Obanai is holding Mitsuri in his arms. They both know that they're going to die. Mitsuri has lost her arms and she can't hold him. Obanai has lost his eyes and he can't see her. But as harsh as that may be, here they are, wearing their hearts on their sleeves, opening up to each other and finally realizing how much they enjoyed each other's existence. Mitsuri asks Obanai that if they're ever to be reborn again, will he make her his wife? Of course, Obanai replies and also adds that the next time he won't let her die. This ages beautifully because when they are finally reborn, they marry each other and live happily ever after. As we saw in chapter 205, they're happily married, running a food joint and selling snake ornaments. Though, another thing that is worth mentioning is that Obanai was holding Mitsuri so tightly at the end that they both had to be buried together. Though, let's talk about another Rengoku fact while we're at it. Ever notice how when patients are in the ICU, there is always a long beep when their heart stops beating? It's to orally demonstrate that the person has unfortunately passed away. Now we all know that Zenitsu has super good hearing, right? As the lightning Hashira, Zenitsu has a heightened sense of hearing that lets him notice even the faintest of sounds. Well, if that is the case, and because Rengoku's death was proper and climactic, then it is absolutely certain that Zenitsu heard Rengoku's last heartbeat as he died. Right as Rengoku smiles at his mother's image, his heart beats for the very last time, and the person who notices it is Zenitsu. And among all the characters that have a sad backstory, the one that gets least talked about is Kanao. Her life was darkness itself. Her parents might as well have been worse than demons because, well, demons just kill you. Her parents made her life a living hell. Just constant beatings to the point that she was not even able to cry or make any other kind of sound to express her pain. Especially when one day, as she touched the bodies of her dead brothers, she realized that they're no longer with her. They couldn't bear the beatings anymore and passed away. She became an empty shell, and that's when her parents sold her into slavery. Fortunately, the Kocho sisters rescued her, adopted her, and gave her a name. As for her name Kanao, we don't know for sure, but many Japanese Demon Slayer fans theorize that her name may have been a pun on Eigao, which means smile. It's because Kanao's name is inspired by Kanai's name, where the E becomes the O. In Japanese, it's I-ga-o. E becomes O. And so it could be that her name is to inspire her to smile. And man, did it age beautifully. As hard as everything was, Kanao lived happily ever after with Tanjiro. Or did she? Don't forget this is a sad facts video after all. One of the most depressing facts is that after everything, Kanao had to cope with Tanjiro dying from the mark after they finally got married and had kids. Now, I know there's debate online about whether the people who awaken their Demon Slayer marks truly makes it past the age of 25. Some say Gyome and Yoriichi did, so stop spreading fake news. Yeah, well, when Gyome got his Demon Slayer mark, he was already past 25, and Yoriichi's demon mark is not awakened. He had it since birth. Also, it's more likely that the Slayers die not because of something like a curse, but because of the physical repercussions of using the mark. The mark requires a heart rate of 200 beats per minute and a body temperature of 39 degrees. Now, such a constant physical state is not going to keep you kicking for long. Kinda like how Olympians tend to have a shorter lifespan as they train so vigorously. We never got an official confirmation of how long Tanjiro lived, but safe to assume the mark probably got to him. We all thought Kanao and Tanjiro finally got their happy ending, but I guess there are no happy endings in Demon Slayer.